Hey guys, it's your humble host, or Kill if you prefer, so I'm back with another video. I'm doing a video response and kind of adding my own thoughts to what Matt Walsh has put out, link in the description below. For those of you who don't know, he put out a book called Johnny the Walrus, and it was a take as to what's going on with the trans mafia targeting kids. So he put out how this little boy named Johnny wanted to be a walrus. And so the mom takes him to the doctor, and the doctor tells him he has to do all these things now to be a walrus. And the book in itself is genius, and it made rounds. And he responds, Matt Walsh, to a very triggered transgender YouTuber, a guy trying to be a chick. Anyway, I watched the video and I want to add my own thoughts with it, so this is going to be long. Just to let you know, as I said, link to the video description below, Matt Walsh, check him out. Anyway, let's go with it.
Today, we're going to be canceling Samantha Lux, who is a YouTuber and, quote, trans woman that is a biological male with a YouTube channel. Actually, a quite popular channel with well over 600,000 subscribers somehow. Sam has many videos promoting transgenderism and quite often responding to perceived instances of transphobia. One of the most recent videos on the channel targets, if you can believe it, none other than the leading LGBT children's author on the planet, yours truly.
So what I'm going to say here is, as we go throughout the video, you're going to see the irony of Sam's responses to Matt. And it's actually incredible because the responses you're going to see is going to be completely oblivious and fly over Sam's head. Much like the rest of the LGBT, because I will say I just had this argument the past week with a group of individuals. You'll see what I mean. It's actually quite ironic and hilarious.
Sam stumbled across my children's book, Johnny the Walrus, which is still available for pre-order over at johnnythewalrus.com, by the way, and does not approve. Specifically, my video where I read the book to a group of children has provoked Sam's ire in a video titled, Transphobes Are Writing Children's Books. Trans Girl Reacts. This is good. You know, I am sincerely interested to hear how a trans girl, quote unquote, reacts to Johnny the Walrus. Perhaps this will be a point-by-point rebuttal. Perhaps evidence and science and logic and bulletproof moral arguments will all be marshaled. And by the end of the video, I will have completely changed my mind, realized the error in my ways, repented of my anti-trans beliefs. Maybe even because of this video that we'll watch together, I will become trans myself. It's possible. So let's watch some of this and see what our friend Samantha Lux brings to the table.
Now, if you're familiar with the content that I create here on my channel, if you're familiar with the arguments that conservatives love to make about trans people, you would be familiar with transphobes' claim that we are indoctrinating their children, that we're making their children gay, that we're forcing their young tomboy daughter to become a boy. That's not me. Who, me? Who, me? I would never. I love you, trans girl. I love your tomboy daughter. She is great. What I don't love is a hypocrite. Matt Walsh, if you are not familiar with, is like an infamous transphobe on YouTube.
So this is what I love, the irony, because you're either playing oblivious and you don't want to look at what's going on, or you're arrogant, which you'll see in this video. Sam is quite arrogant. We have children's shows, because I tried to explain this to someone earlier this week who didn't quite understand. And it's actually very frustrating to where we have shows, we have books, we have media, we have comics, we have all sorts of things. We have counselors, we have psychiatrists, we have schools. I mean, hell, we even now have clothing, all targeting at kids about gender identity. We have what's called the gender unicorn in Washington State, and this stupid thing has spread everywhere. It originally came from North Carolina. So, no, you guys are targeting kids. You even are using the drag queen culture to do it. No.
This posted a video 1 week ago reading his book, Johnny the Walrus, to a bunch of little kids.
Okay, so we're off to a rough start here already. A few points. First, I do not believe, Sam, that you are forcing any child to do anything, or making any child do anything. I am accusing you and your fellow propagandists of trying to heavily influence children with falsehoods, distortion, lies, and other forms of insanity that they, the children, do not have the mental capacity to sort through.
And here's where I'm going to correct Matt Walsh, because there are groups or whatnot and people forcing their kids. We have Save James. If you guys are not familiar with that, please, I will link that playlist in the description below, as well as the page. If you look at who Jazz Jennings is and his psychotic mother, Jazz was forced to do that. You have another custody case, which I've talked about on my channel, Save Miles Gortz. You do have children who are being forced. Now, I know he's trying to be general, and I'm not correcting him. Like I said, this book is genius, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do, which is awesome. But yeah, no, children are getting forced to do these things. Whether or not these cases are more prominent in the media, Save James is, and then Save Miles Gortz came on the heels of Save James. Both you should check out. Again, I'm going to put both playlists in the link in the description below with links. But yes, there are children who are being made and forced to do these things.
So indoctrination does not often involve physical force, because you cannot physically force someone to believe something. Belief requires mental assent, not physical assent. But you can coerce and trick people into believing things, and when they're children, that's very easy to do, as you know from experience.
That's another good point, but as I said, there are children who you've seen the shows, and I can't remember, I believe it's a girl transitioning to a boy where she's scared of the shots, and at one point says, I don't want to do this, or I don't want the shot. So unfortunately, and I know the point that Matt's trying to make, and he's trying to be logical, but if you look at the cases that are coming up, children are being forced. And it's one of the reasons why I want to point it, because I'm talking about this just a little bit more down the line. It's why Jeff Younger lost custody because of Judge Mary Brown, because he wasn't willing to force James in to do that. His mother, if you even want to call her that, and Georgia has been trying to force James to transition, and we don't have any further information on the boys, James or Jude. So that is actually rather scary, and I just hope both of them are okay, but that is an example of a child being forced against his will, against their will, to transition. And so that includes socially, and she had fast-tracked him medically as well. So yes, the reason why I'm responding to this video, because I want to add my own thoughts, and I also want to bring that case to light again, because I know stuff has died down. We've gone completely dark. We don't know what's going on with the boys. So anyway, let's continue.
Also, by the way, I appreciate being called infamous, and I won't take any issue with that label. But I am not an infamous transphobe, because I'm not a transphobe at all. And when I say I'm not a transphobe, I'm not saying it to gain your approval or to convince you that I'm not bigoted. Yeah, I couldn't give a less of a damn if you think that I'm bigoted or not. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I am instead concerned with definitions. And the definition of phobia is irrational fear. I'm not afraid of trans people. If I was, I wouldn't spend so much of my time saying things that I know will make you angry. My fear, and it is not irrational, is of the effect that trans propaganda has on society, and especially on kids.
Exactly that, and I've been called a transphobe, homophobe in the past. No, and I try to explain this to people, and people who's been in my Discord server, around my channel, has followed the Save James page, and even the Save Miles Gort stuff, you see what we're talking about. You see what Matt Walsh is bringing up. You've seen what I've brought up. You've seen what other figures brought up. And it's not a confirmation bias, as some people like to label. No, this is stuff that people are starting to keep track of and keep an eye on. I've been keeping an eye on this stuff for years. And at first, I thought it was being blown out of proportion, like with the Save James stuff. I didn't think none of that was real. I'm going like, okay, this is just a right media outlet losing their crap over something small, whatever, until I actually looked into it. So again, no. The trans cult's ideologies is causing society to regress. It is an attack of the nuclear family, it is population control, it is divide and conquer, and it is targeting specific groups. I've talked about this on my channel multiple times. You have the abused, whether it be sexually, physically, You have the medically traumatized. You have the mentally disabled, ranging from autistic to people with Down syndrome. If you guys remember, a few years back, an article came out how they dressed up a bunch of children with Down syndrome and did a drag show with them. Children with Down syndrome, and there's different levels, because I know there's a woman who has Down syndrome and she's in Congress. So I'm not saying people with Down syndrome are stupid, but there's different levels of intelligence, but you can tell these particular children that were involved in the show, were made to be part of the show, had not really any clue as to what's going on. Let's continue.
Okay, so we have that clarified. Let's continue. We're going to have to skip around a little bit because Sam's video is long, and it seems like a little too self-involved even for me to spend too much time reacting to somebody else reacting to one of my videos. But we'll watch enough to get the gist and to discover whether Sam will be able to make any arguments that will disprove or undermine my central points. Let's keep going.
All right, do you understand the comparison that's going to be happening here? He's like, this book is about a little boy who thinks he's a walrus, and his mom, also is convinced that he's a real walrus. Do you get the correlation? It's going to be about a little boy that thinks he's a girl or something, and the mom is convinced that he's a real girl. How creative. How did you ever come up with such a creative, powerful analogy for children who don't understand what you're talking about?
You know what? I'm gonna let Matt Walsh do this because, yeah, no, you're exactly right, but you guys feel the need to go out of your way to indoctrinate, brainwash, and throw a bunch of gender-confusing crap on them, but, Matt Walsh has it a lot better.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's not creative. It's not creative at all. I mean, the comparison between somebody identifying as a different sex and someone identifying as an animal has been done a million times. I'm not the first to do it. South Park did it a decade ago. But the problem is that nobody on your side has ever come up with anything approaching an effective response to the analogy. You've never been able to explain why it's wrong. All you ever do is just scoff that you've heard the point before. Well, we know you've heard it, and you're going to keep hearing it over and over again until you answer it. All right, let's continue.
So that's the thing. They're never going to have an answer for it because they know exactly what they're doing. As I said, have Drag Queen Story Hour. You have their freaking gender unicorn. You have all this other crap that's targeting children. Hell, Blue's Clues, the freaking parade. Do you guys remember that bit of controversy that got passed around a few months back? How not only did they have a drag queen talking about the LGBT in the parade, they even showed a beaver with top surgery scars. They're never going to have a logical answer because they know exactly what the hell they're doing, but nobody in that group wants to acknowledge it at all. They just want to go, oh, well, this is an outlier, or this isn't really happening, or this is just a few radicals. No, this is the majority of the group.
What is this thing doing on the floor?
We don't have to worry about that. We're going to read the book now.
This man has never met a kid in his whole life. Never interacted with one child. He's like, I don't give a sit down, we're going to read the book.
Except for he's a dad, but again, he's going to do a better job of explaining that. But yes, this is a father who knows how to deal with children and has been around children quite a bit.
I'm here for half an hour and then I gotta go, so sit down so I can film, okay? Thank you, brat.
No, I think the problem is that you've never been around a dad before, which maybe I would have already guessed. I'm around kids all the time because I have 4 of them. But I have by now developed a critical case of dad syndrome. And that means that I'm just snapping my fingers and I'm keeping people on task. That's what I do. I'm dad. You should see me during chore time every night in my house. You, get over there, pick up those shoes. You, come over, vacuum the rug. I don't even remember anybody's names anymore. That's another symptom of dad syndrome. Okay, skipping ahead. But Johnny's mom's phone said it's not just pretend. So she went on her phone, and there were people telling her that this isn't pretend. He's really a walrus. Only a bigot would say that. How dare you offend?
Okay, so for those of you who aren't picking it up quite yet, because I know not everybody follows what's going on. If you've ever heard the term of glitter families, or you have so-called parental groups who you have questioning parents come in because they've never heard or dealt with this stuff before with their child, and now they're hearing all this stuff. You'll have parents reach out to these groups saying, hey, well, my child's expressing this. And you have parents go, oh, well, they're really a girl or they're really a boy trapped in a girl's body. So that's what he's referencing. Because everybody who's been around my channel for quite a few years and seen the Save James should pick up on this, what he's referencing. But if not, he's talking about the multiple groups, including glitter families, please look into what those are. They'll go around and they'll target young people, children, say, oh, well, we'll accept you for who we are. You're really this because you feel this way. Your feelings are validated with these feelings of confusion and delusion. And anyway.
What's a bigot? Anybody know?
Kids are, I don't know how old these kids are. I'm not good at estimating age, but they don't
Try 5 to 7. Use your brain just a little bit. What's left of it?
know what you're talking about. You don't see their face? Did he run this past like an actual children's author and be like read it to a kid and see what they thought before he published it? I think he just went for it. Of course, they don't know what a bigot is.
They also don't know what chest binding is. They don't know what gender confusion is. They don't know what a bunch of this trans crap is, but you guys feel the need to push it on kids anyway. Case in point.
They're 4. I mean, it does make sense that he would go for children because, you know, they have the same capacity for intellectual thought as him. Like, babe, if you're gonna write a children's book...
Okay, I'm going to touch upon this. So, you guys do the same crap, and this book did exactly what it was supposed to. So, you guys don't expect children to understand anything that you throw at them. Again, look up the gender unicorn or the gingerbread person, I believe it's called. You guys trick children into thinking it's okay and confuse the living crap out of them with various shit. There's schools that talk about chest binding, that talk about the various surgeries. Washington State, that couples along with the gender unicorn crap, look into the sex education that they're now pushing over there. So, no, you guys do the same stuff to indoctrinate and trick the children. What Matt Walsh is proving is what you guys are doing. His book, of course the children will be confused. It's like, well, no, Johnny's not a walrus. Johnny's a boy. Hello? You're not seeing the irony, and it's amazing.
Book. Write it for children. Write it using words that they understand and that they know and that you don't have to explain for them to understand what you're trying to say through your book.
First of all, don't call me babe. Second, did I run it by an actual children's author? Yes, I ran it by myself. And when myself came to myself and said, self, what do you think of this children's book idea? Myself responded, self, that's an exceptional idea. So I did get the go-ahead from an expert in the field of children's literature, if that matters to you. Now, Sam also says that some of these concepts are above a child's head. Yes, Sam, that's the point. Now you're getting it. If a silly story about a kid transitioning into a walrus is inevitably too weird and abstract for children, then what happens if we mix sex and gender into it? Does it suddenly become more appropriate for children? If a child, as you say, isn't even old enough to understand what a bigot is, or to hear the word, then is he old enough to be introduced to a concept like transgenderism? If he can't understand bigot, can he understand what it means for a boy to have a girl mystically trapped inside him? If my book is above his head, what about a choice that will fundamentally change his life and alter him physically and biologically forever? Is that above his head too? What do you think? Connect the dots, Sam. You can do it.
So, as I said, the irony that this book presented and caused is amazing. Now, you're going to have all sorts of people from that group go, oh, well, children need to be educated on these things. It's different from Johnny wanting to be a walrus to Johnny feeling like he's a girl. No. There is no difference. They equate because the child believes that there's something that they're not. It's the same thing. Oh my gosh.
You'll need to eat worms and to put on gray makeup. The worms give you whiskers, the gray blends you in, the doctor says. And a simple procedure cuts feet into fins. The doctor wants to cut into Johnny and make him into a walrus.
See, look at these kids, and I love it. The kids' reaction and the parallels that are being drawn here. I hope my audience is picking this up and actually has seen this book, and I hope you guys go and follow Matt Walsh. No, I'm not being sponsored by him, or this is not being promoted by him. I came across the video, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to respond to this because this is fantastic. But no, they do talk about these surgeries with children. Again, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more because there is a point in this video that really ticked me off. Not on Matt Walsh's side, the other guy's side. But again, bringing up with Dave James. He was fast-tracked for hormones that came out during the court hearing of 2019. I will explain more when we get to that point.
It's gross eating worms, Mom. They're all so dang twitchy. He doesn't want to eat worms.
Our children's... You see what he's doing here? With the analogies that he's drawing, he's arguing that parents are forcing their young children to take medications that they don't want to take, or to have surgeries that they don't want to take, or to transition when they don't want to transition. That's not what happens. You know, children have a say in the process. Children are allowed to make their own decision. Of course, with the help of medical professionals, of course.
You mean medical professionals that are paid to push certain narratives? Let's take a look at Anne Georgia's expert witnesses. I forget her first name, but the last name is Reinhaf. Reinhaf was caught videotaped, and if I can find the video on YouTube, I will link it below. She was caught telling other counselors, use the suicide tactic. Tell parents their children are gonna commit suicide if you do not let them transition. Now, to touch upon these idiots' point, because yes, as I said in the comments of Matt Walsh's video, save James and then save Miles Gortz, where you have two mothers who have been described as Munchausen's by proxy. If you don't know what that is, that pretty much means the person thinks that the individual that they're trying to care for is sick, so therefore they must make them better, and they're going to do all this weird and abusive crap to them to make them better. Anyway, that's just a very general thing of it. But going back to what I was saying, yes, there are parents who are forcing their kids to transition. It starts with socially transition. Let me introduce you guys, for those of you who are new to my channel, some upon this video, because Matt Walsh has talked about the Save James stuff before. In a nutshell, James and Jude are twin boys, and they're sons of Jeff Younger and Anne Georgilis. Now, all this girl crap started after Jeff and Anne divorced, when James and Jude were around the age of 2 to 3 years old. Ever since then, Anne has been trying to transition James into a girl, and it's against his will. I've met the boys, and the boys, last we heard from them, were scared of Anne because she went out of her way to punish them severely if they did something wrong. And with James, what came out during the October 2019 hearing, she was putting all kinds of LGBT transgender crap all in his room, propaganda. She even put a big transgender flag, trying to coerce him to think he's a girl named Luna. Now, as I said, the playlist, I'm going to put in the link in the description below. Please go through it, because there's a lot of stuff in there, and right now, we don't have tabs on the boys, because of this idiotic judge, Judge Mary Brown of 304, Dallas, Texas, when it was previously the judge, Kim Cooks of 255th Court, Dallas, Texas Court. Jeff got his parental rights terminated because he refused to go along with the counseling by Susan Fletcher as they try to coerce James into thinking he was a girl. James very much mimics his dad. Again, that is one case, one situation, and it's not an outlier. This is just one of the cases that managed to hit the damn media. I am sick and tired of hearing, oh, it's an outlier. No, fuck off. Wake up, open your eyes as to what's really going on. Another case, and I think this one's a little bit more, in another way, messed up. Save Miles Gortz. You have Miles Gortz, the son of Sarah Gortz, who is autistic, who is put on heavy antipsychotics by his mom and has gained weight from these drugs, along with antidepressants and other crap. And his mom is trying to take advantage of his autism and turn him into a girl. Again, I will post the link to all that stuff below. There's going to be 2 sections. There's going to be Save James and there's going to be Save Miles. So yes, Sam, you do have parents forcing their kids to transition. And look at the story of Jazz Jennings. Oh, I'm so sick of this shit.
But like this whole part that Johnny's like, I don't want to eat worms, that would be the end of it. That's the end of it. Johnny doesn't want to eat worms. No worms for Johnny. No worms.
I will say we got exactly the reaction to the doctor page with the bone saw that I had in mind when we included that page, and I fought for that page. Now, there was, I will tell you a little bit behind the scenes.
And I'm glad he did, because the reaction that Sam gave should be the reaction of every person, because of what these doctors, or should I say butchers, are pushing onto children, are pushing onto young people, especially those who've been traumatized and vulnerable. So yes, that should scare the shit out of everybody.
There was some discussion over here about that particular page with the doctor with the bone saw chasing the child, and I fought for that.
I'm glad
I said, that's got to be in there. And it was. No, Sam, but see, you say children make their own decisions, but children can't make their own decisions. If I'm arguing that a certain course of action is harmful for a child, bad for them, damaging to them, it does no good to retort that the child wants to do it. Children who want to do harmful things should still be prevented from doing those things. Why? Because they're children.
And I want to touch upon something too, because this is early in the video how Sam tried to claim that Matt Walsh wasn't around children and had never been around children. Here's the thing about parents, Sam, because I am not a parent. I'm actually scared to death of being a parent because I'd take some effing head off if they ever mess with my kids in the way that you guys are going around messing with other people's children. Okay, so this is what parents are waking up and doing and going, no, this is my child. You're not going to harm my child. So when parents go, just because my child wants to do it does not make it right, and that should be the logic of every freaking parent. Oh, well, you feel this way. Well, let's talk about it, but this is not a good thing. This is not a healthy thing. You don't understand what you're saying. And children don't. But you know what? You guys don't care. You guys continue to push and push and push and push because the older generations have pretty much told you to go F yourselves. So you target the kids with Drag Queen Story Hour, with the damn gender unicorn, with the freaking glitter families, with all this other crap by forcing the school policies to change. We now have biological males competing in girl sports. Girl sports is practically ruined. So there's a plethora of stuff that's going on that has resulted from this crap. But I digress.
They don't understand what they're saying. They don't know what they want. And often they don't actually want what they think they want. At Red Robin the other day, my 5-year-old told me he wanted to order salmon for his dinner. Now, I knew damn well that kid did not want salmon. He wanted chicken tenders and fries because that's what he always wants, and it's the only thing he'll ever actually eat at a restaurant. So I didn't let him have the meal that he wanted because I knew that he didn't really want it because he's a kid. And that's just for something as frivolous as a meal at Red Robin. What if your son says he wants to become a girl? Or a salmon, for that matter? Not only can you be sure that he doesn't really want that because he doesn't understand what he's saying or what it means or what the implications are, because he can't, because he's just a kid, but also in this case, whereas it's at least possible to actually order salmon, it's not possible for him to actually become a girl, which is reason enough to not give him what he says he wants. All right, let's skip ahead again and see if Sam saves the best rebuttals for the very end.
And I'm going to touch upon this too, and this is from an artist's point of view. So going back to the way that a lot of this crap is targeted at kids, it's the art style, it's the colors, you make it look as fun and cute and lovable as humanly possible when you target this crap at kids. Again, perfect example. The using Blue's Clues to push the trans crap and with the song, the LGBT Pride Parade, and the Gender Unicorn. Look at the way that these things are drawn. You cannot tell me these are not purposefully targeted at kids. Any artist can look at, because you have different art styles, okay? So you have art styles that will attract adults, you have art styles that are going to attract young adults, you have art styles that are going to attract kids, and then you have art styles that are going to attract toddlers. A lot of this stuff that's been targeted at these very young children, and it progresses as if you follow anything that's going on with DC and Marvel, they're pushing the same bullshit too, and it's brightly colored, it's round, the eyes are big, the characters are cute and squishable, how a children's cartoon is supposed to look. Again, you cannot tell me that this is not happening.
What's the moral of the story? What's the lesson here? Aren't children's books supposed to have like a lesson that's, clear? Because I don't know what this is trying to say. I don't know what this lesson here is.
Bullshit. You know exactly what it's trying to say. You have no counterpoint. And this is what pisses me off. Because no one's willing, either they're arrogant and they just want to continue to push their bullshit when it comes to this crap, or they want to stay in their bubble, their little safe space. Oh, well, no, it's not happening, so therefore, this person's being bigoted for pointing this shit out. No, I'm so sick of this crap because you guys think you know better when it is blurring the difference. You guys are trying to go out of your way to blur the differences between man and woman. You're trying to confuse the crap out of children because, again, you had the older generations to pretty much go tell you to F yourselves. You have infiltrated all kinds of media. At this point, it's a freaking plague. Again, perfect example, DC and Marvel. go look at the crap that they've been pulling and why that entire industry is freaking dying. You have various types of media ranging from books, cartoons. No, it just, people have had it. People are waking up. You know exactly what the book is doing, and it did exactly just that. You are a perfect example of that.
The other lesson is don't listen to the creepy people in your phone. Don't trust medical professionals. Walruses are mean. Like, oh my goodness. Maybe take a writing class or something. Ask a kid, like, do you
Maybe get a Brandon off the freaking hormones.
know what this book is about? Because none of them did. Like, you could argue that this book is made for adults. Write a book for adults. Write a book for adults. Or is it that you have to dumb down these analogies and these arguments for children brain because they don't hold any weight in actual adult language? But yeah, that is it for this video. What do you guys think? You gonna go get Johnny the Walrus, the book?
Well, since you asked, what do I think? I think you should probably in the future have some kind of rebuttal if you're going to make a rebuttal video. You rebutted my points in the same way that my dog rebuts the deer that he sees running through the backyard, by just barking incoherently at them. Yeah, you're right that I did dumb down the arguments and analogies, but apparently I wasn't able to make them dumb enough for you to understand. My story about a kid pretending to be a walrus was, it would seem, slightly above your reading level. And that's a shame because it's a message that you might have really benefited from. And instead, I'm forced to say, finally, Samantha Lux, that you are, sadly, tragically, canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh.
So, yeah. I don't like the arrogance of these people. And as I said, so, a little bit more of an explanation. So, oh my god. These people know exactly what they're doing. Some people push it for money, agenda, because they don't want to face facts about the reality of what's going on, or of what they delve into, or what they got tricked into. And as I explained to various people before, a lot of these people do get preyed upon. They're indoctrinated. They are preyed upon in a vulnerable time. Especially teenagers and kids. So, teenagers going through puberty, their brains are scrambled from the hormones. And to hear, because puberty brings on shame, confusion, like, is this normal? My body feels weird to me. So, to bring about, oh, well, you may be a different gender identity, you may be a girl, you may be a boy, whatever, it's predatory. Aiming this stuff at kids and even teenagers is freaking predatory, and they know it. If you look at the heart of queer theory by John Money, and I'm going to put a link in the description below for you guys to look up, and that's just going to be one article. Please, go do the research. You had pedophilia involved in this. So if this was something that is, I don't know, something that you can choose or something that you feel right, why would you go out of your way to target kids with this when you're not trying to indoctrinate or brainwash anybody? Simple answer. You are trying to indoctrinate kids. And the fact that Sam is getting so upset by Matt Walsh's book just proves the irony, because Sam goes, yeah, the kids don't understand this. Why don't you actually write this stuff for kids? He did. This book was written in a way to where adults can pick up the subliminal messages and go, oh, okay, so this is what's going on. And then kids can go, well, Johnny's not a walrus. And the kids can understand something is wrong. So here, again, here's the irony. I'm going to end it here because we're a little bit past a half an hour. The trans cult, LGBT mafia, Q+, ABZD, I don't, goes out of their way to target children and teenagers and vulnerable people with this garbage, especially children. Again, you have the gender unicorn. Perfect example is Blue's Clues. They're sneaking other stuff into children's cartoons. Perfect example, they had an Arthur episode which sprung a gay wedding on a lot of its young viewers, and parents were kind of outraged because going like, excuse me, this is my conversation to have with my kid, not yours. So, anyway, I wanted to respond to this and hopefully boost it to bring a little bit more attention, because things have gone quiet with the Save James stuff and even the Save Mal Gort stuff. Because it is important. They're not just outliers. These are cases who have been managed to push past the barrier, because both of them were under gag orders, mind you. push past the barrier, get enough people to go, holy crap, what is going on? And then you have more parents. Let me tell you something too, because people go, well, this isn't outline. No, bullshit. We've had more people message the page, this is Save James, by the way, and go, no, I'm going through this, and this is all over the country. This is all over the world. A big prominent case you can look up is Rob Hoogland in Canada. His 14-year-old daughter, because her psychotic mother wanted to help her transition into a boy. A teenager doesn't know jack crap about anything that they're saying. Teenagers are stupid. Some of them act very inappropriately because they don't know what's going on, or they've been traumatized, or they've been left vulnerable, or they've just been indoctrinated to think certain things are okay because of their environment. Okay? So, no, there's a lot going on, and I really hope you guys share the video. Not particularly mine, but Matt Walsh's. As I said, I'm going to post a link in the description below as a source. Go watch this. Go look at the full episode. This is what's going on. Either people just want to look away, stay in their safe space, or they're pushing something. So, as I said, that is why I wanted to respond to this, because I had it out with a group. And I'm not naming names, I'm not here to start shit or anything like that, but I had it out with the group, and I've gotten to various arguments over this, because you have people who suddenly think they're this because of either some significant trauma, some confusion brought on, shame, whatever have you. This is what's going on. This is a thing that's happening, and it's not good. I do not care to be called transphobic. I do not give a shit. I do not care to be called homophobic. I don't care. So, for those of you who actually want to take a look and open your eyes and look at the hard stuff, links are going to be below. Please, for the love of God, do your own research, look into the 2 cases that I mentioned, and just keep your eyes open. You guys have a good one.